Hello, this is Tim Wiggins with Auto Appraise, and today we're looking at a 1970 Oldsmobile 442 W30 model, which on top of the 442 package came with a few extra goodies, including a Winter's Foundry aluminum intake manifold, open air induction. In this model year, the induction came through these hood scoops. Earlier years had scoops that went from the air intake in the engine compartment down to under the bumpers or just behind the bumpers. It comes with these mighty nifty little red inner fenders. It's a hallmark of the W30. The inner fenders, I'm told, are the original ones, and you can see the scratches on them there. These aren't reproductions, or God forbid, you know, somebody found NOS red W30 fenders somewhere, inner fenders. But apparently the restorers spent hours and hours and hours using razor blades to scrape and Scotch-Brite pads and just went nuts on these inner fenders to make them look this good. It's just undergone a 4-year restoration project. It's been driven about 10 miles since the restoration was completed. And I've been going over it the last couple, 3 hours and finding just the tiniest of flaws. I've had to work hard to find them, but they're there. No car is perfect. This one has a little paint run right here between the bumper and front fender. And there's a tiny little nick underneath the rocker in one of the rear quarters. The manual oversolar restoration states that both rear quarters were replaced on the car, and I believe one door is not original to the car. Also, the part of the trunk pan, and it's had some extensive work done to it, and it's come out really well. I don't know if you can see that little toy car that sits over here in the garage, reflected in the paint. There it is. Yeah, it's really a mirror finish. There's a little bit of orange peel way down here, but it was buffed and polished everywhere above that line. Just did a magnet test on it. It's got a few areas, well, more than a few, of reduced magnet adhesion. I use a pretty sensitive magnet, so it indicates that there is a little filler on the car here and there. It's not all, you know, perfect sheet metal as from the factory. Maybe some glazing putty when they did the paint job on it. But as you can see, the lines on it are straight. The gaps are almost perfect, if not perfect. It's hard to imagine they would be much better than this from the factory. They're really quite good. Chrome is as new. I'll show you under the car in a second. It's just stunning. It's a nut and bolt frame off restoration on this car, and it shows. The interior, exceptionally clean. It's, again, it's not a 100-point car, but you know, looking at a car like this and pointing out its flaws is a little bit like having a date with Miss Universe and telling her she's got something stuck between her teeth. This little trim piece interior isn't perfect. The panels are sharp and clean. They're all fresh. Everything is vinyl on this car. Some of them came with cloth inserts. Odometer reads 93,109 on it. It's got the Hurst dual gate shifter hooked up to the Turbo-Hydromatic 400. Don't know if this camera's going to record in this dark interior in this light. There's what I thought were flaws in the headliner. These two little holes here, and then I looked to the other side, identical holes here. So they might be installed there for courtesy lights, or I'm not sure about that, but overall the interior is flawless. You know, this is pretty much a show car, and once we get underneath it, you'll see exactly what I mean. A little bit of online research told me where the engine numbers are the transmission number, the tags, what they're supposed to say. That's part of what we do at Auto Appraise, is get our background before we come to look at the car. And from there, we do a comprehensive bumper-to-bumper inspection. The goal is to provide any prospective buyer with a fine-tooth comb inspection prior to buying or bidding on a major investment. Each report provides several pages of detailed description and over 150 photographs, including the underside of the car. Each report is also reviewed and examined by the company president, Jason Phillips, whose experience with inspecting and appraising cars goes back decades. Okay, back to the 442. Here we go. Okay. That's the sound of a motor with 10 miles on it. Normally we test drive any car as a part of the inspection. In this case, with a fresh restoration on a car like this, we agreed to do a ride-along instead. The way a car drives can be pretty obvious with some careful observation, and I didn't want to be the one driving if a piece of flying gravel put the first chip in the paint or windshield. So I was happy to ride along.
So they serve some, I thought they were wear indicators originally, and I still think that may be it. Somebody talked about that it allowed air to get past it, but as soon as your pads wear into that groove, there's no air going to go past that. That's right. I still think they're wear indicators from Oldsmobile originally.
Toward the end of the ride, I noticed a little whine coming from the transmission, and almost imperceptible at first, and it got a little bit louder, and I asked about it.
That whining noise is transmission
just coming down because of the gear ratio.
Seemed like a normal noise, then it got a little louder. Then it got a little louder. Then it seemed to shift and come from the back of the car and got louder and started clattering and grinding. It sounded terrible.
I'm not sure what that is. It's coming out of the rear end.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we were at the end of the test drive,
Get it up back on the roof and see what.
and the car will need to go back up on the lift and get that sorted out, and I'm sure they'll be happy to do that. But I did need to include in the report that at the end of the test drive these noises occurred, and the car needs to be
It's a strong car, and the thing about
looked at a little further.
It was a they were kind of billed as the old man's car because it was just so smooth and luxurious with that.
Old men like Paul Newman.
Yeah.
So that was our inspection. If you have a car that you'd like to have us inspect, please feel free to give us a call at 800-301-3886 or check us out online at www.autoappraise.com.